All right, so we're here with XAR today. He's going to show us his system for doing vitriols and Aqua Regia processing.
Yeah,
Take
so
it away.
I've been making these columns for doing our processing. We got a stack with a bath, an electrolyzer, and the Hujima bobs to get it all set. I start with the electrolysis with a transformer. You don't want your stuff flipping on and off because you missed a packet. So I tend to just start with a transformer. I know you do as well.
Yes.
We already have a auto shut off on here. If you don't have an auto shut off, it's on. There's no recipe in here. You're wasting power. Put an auto shut off on it. Oh, look, it stopped. Yay!
Auto shutoffs are the greatest thing.
It prevents us from having to put a circuit in our machine. Instead, it's on a cover. The next thing up here is the bath. We're going to leave this space in between because we have some fun we have to do with the fluids. So the bath is going to take on the top. For this one, we're doing sulfuric. So on the top, we'll put sulfuric acid. Above it, the sulfurics are completely self-contained in this little pillar. So we don't need to add more sulfuric later. So each of these has been manually loaded with a batch of sulfuric. From under here, we'll connect some corrosive resistant manipul pipe. We're going to get two outputs. We're going to get hydrogen and we're going to get a vitriol. The hydrogen we want to exit the system. So on one side, we'll throw a filter to exit that hydrogen. And I have drums scattered around here with our fluids already in them. So this one's got hydrogen. And we'll set that filter. And then we can connect a pipe off of this and throw it to wherever you're sending your hydrogen to, which I have down here.
And be aware that you can connect the pipe to the filter, but you can't open it with a wrench.
Yeah, unless you have a face exposed.
Yes.
So on the other side, so that gets the hydrogen out, and the vitriol will go into the electrolyzer. From the other side, where you need to add the missing component for the electrolyzer also needs water. So we'll turn back to the other side, grab a fluid container with water in it, and whack that for water.
But you want to make sure you have the filter because you don't want anything going back into your water line and voiding your vitriol and corroding out your pipe.
Oh yeah, that'll be lots of fun. So as we see that the connection opens when we place a pipe onto it. Otherwise, you need to pre-open it. The right-hand side, as we're facing here, is ejecting items. So I have a ultimate sitting right at the end of each machine and not in between. That's a mechanic of how Greg's pipes work. The entry point is where the speed really cares about. The rest of them are just the routing cost. This allows us to put more than one processing run of output into the pipe. In the case of the bath, you're going to have between 3 and 12 items that need to go into the pipe. And you can congest the pipe pretty easily. And if first cycle, not a big deal. 8th cycle, also not a big deal. 12th or 13th cycle, where you don't get all the items out, the machine backlogs. And if you're not careful, that will completely shut down the whole line. And so we use the ultimate to try and bypass that getting stuck.
And this is the recipe that we're looking at doing, or any of these recipes, honestly, that use sulfuric acid will make some kind of vitriol along with extra tiny refines of the input material. And then the vitriols are going down into the electrolyzer. It's 2 vitriol runs per electrolyzer. And then you get a output with some more sulfuric and oxygen. He'll get to that point in a second, but this is basically what we're setting up. So for things that give copper, you'll get copper. There's also one for iron, one for zinc, one for manganese, which he's got here. That's blue, which is copper, green, which is iron, gray, which is manganese. There's a special one for green for ilmenite. And then there's probably a zinc one you're not doing, which is black.
Yeah, I'm going to do Aqua Regia for zinc.
Okay.
To get some bonuses out of that. Because I'll get a tin out of that, and then I'll get zinc smalls.
Okay.
Out of the cassiterite. Which is why we're setting up a new one. So from the electrolyzer, we're going to have 2 outputs also. So we're going to have one of them's corrosive, so again a corrosive resistant pipe. And in this case, we're getting oxygen and sulfuric acid back. So on the top, there's a filter. On the bottom, there's a filter. And so we need to set those for that. So we'll set for sulfuric, and we'll set for oxygen. I put the sulfuric on the top, and the reason being is we need to get the sulfuric acid back into the bath. So we'll start setting that upwards. Then oxygen can come out the bottom, and I have a return line down here.
Now the sulfuric is lossless for this, which is why he's doing this loop where he'll preload it with a little bit of sulfuric, and then that will run right back around for an infinite loop. Now the oxygen and the hydrogen that you get out is not an infinite loop. There's a loss of just a little bit of oxygen, I do believe. So
I think you can no, there isn't a loss of oxygen from the bath. It should chemically be making it, but it can't because there's only 2 outputs. Right. So we inject water. We could technically recombine the hydrogen and oxygen, but we'll get to why you probably don't want to do that later.
Okay.
So the bath needs to take input for our items, and it takes it from the top or the side. And it also needs to take fluids, which it also takes from the top or the side. So to compact this build, we're going to use an inventory and tank extender. And that will allow us to put a hopper in the top, which will allow us to inject items into here. And it'll allow us to take the pipe from the bottom and put that sulfuric acid back in. And this completes our loop as far as that's concerned.
How much do you usually preload your bath with of sulfuric?
It only holds 21, so I literally just let it run, put 21 in it.
Okay.
Which is 4 runs or something.
Okay.
So I'll just set this drum up on the top. And if I click correctly, and we'll get 21 exact in there. And then that's loaded up with sulfuric. The last thing we need to do is throw an item filter up here above the hopper. Now, the reason we need to use the item filter is because this isn't on a pole face. We'd have to be, or I guess we could do not a hopper, we could do a chest. And we could get a larger chest here, but you won't be able to open it.
Yeah.
The ultimate hopper gives us 27 slots, which is a single chest. and allows us to look in it, which I've found handy. So it's a worthwhile trade-off. Don't saturate your line. And this is now complete. The pipes are already set to connect for this line. And we can throw something in here, and it will run. Let me see if I have something that will run. Yes, we can run this. So I'll just throw 2 units of malachite in here. And we'll actually not let the pipes eject the items. And we get malachite. We saw those fluids remove. And we saw one run, and so we have blue vitriol down there. Oh, and we forgot a thing we need.
You forgot the tag.
The electrolyzer needs a 1 tag.
Yes. Gotta love those tags. And while he's getting the tag, the extender is set to extend the bath input. So the main facing is setting that way. Secondary facing does not matter. The filter is got its main facing down to the hopper. So it'll take from the top and put into the hopper. Again, secondary facing does not matter.
Okay, and that's a sulfuric loop. We got a bunch of extra malachite out of that. Not really great. But between those 2 pieces of malachite, we got 1 piece of copper. And if you did persulfide for this, that malachite also gave you 9 small coppers, which you can run in an Aqua Regia and get
Gold.
Whatever's in that one. Gold, yeah.
You actually have a choice when it comes to the malachite. The malachite's really nice with that. Because the copper from it. Sorry. So if you do the persulfite bath with it, you're going to get the copper, like he said, out of it. When I get to the right recipe, there's a lot to give malachite. There it is. So malachite persulfite will give you copper, and then, like he said, you run it through the sulfuric, you get more copper and more malachite. But the copper, you have 2 choices. You can either do Aqua Regia and get cobalt ore, which is good if you're wanting to make cobalt 60. You also get gold from it out of the chloroauric acid that comes out. Or you can also run it through the same system with sulfuric acid and get extra copper out of it, and the blue vitriol, which even gives you more copper. So it all depends on what you're looking for out of it. If you want gold and cobalt, you do Aqua Regia. If you just need butt tons of copper, then you do the sulfuric. Copper's nice like that. Gold's the same way. You have 2 choices with it as well.
What the hell happened here?
I don't know. What did you do?
I connected the filter and it started giving me items that weren't filtered.
Nice job.
I don't understand. Let me pick up this mess. Alright, so I'm just getting ahead of myself and setting up some of the things we already talked about.
Okay. Oh, and I know why it did what you... The filter will only filter the output. So if you have it set to... If you have the hopper on there and you don't have the output going down, it'll let anything through that.
Yeah, I think
so. It only
so.
filters the output.
I think I ended up having the side inverted.
All right, so now he's setting up the Aqua Regia now. Oh, while he gets that set up, I'll show you the Ilmenite, which is basically the same thing. But I prefer to do this for the Ilmenite to rutile, which it needs 5 Ilmenite and 7 sulfuric acid, which will then give you 6 vitriol, which is the one you need to turn it into iron in the electrolyzer. So this is a nice way of getting iron. It actually makes it so you can get iron out of bauxite because you get a bit of ilmenite out of bauxite. It's not a bunch, but over time, as you're making aluminum, you'll get some. But I choose to do it this way because if you do ilmenite in the burner mixer, you end up getting ferric chloride out, and that takes away a little bit of your chlorine and makes it less of a loop. You end up having to put the chlorine from this back in. So I prefer to do it this way. But that's the only thing that's different between it and the vitriols. The other vitriols is you only get a rutile out and no extra. It's just leaching the iron off of the ilmenite.
And we get
purified rutile.
We get purified iron, straight up iron out of that too. So that's nice.
Yeah, the ferric chloride will end up giving you iron too. It's literally the same outputs, but it's less of a pain in the butt with the chlorine. I'm sure you could probably do a loop with that as well with the burner, but I prefer to use the sulfuric for it.
Okay, so we've got kind of the same. Well, I should probably do it here, but I need to move this. So let's get this pulled down for a sec. All right. Put the bath up here. Oh, the bath is up there. Oh, this one's bath is missing. Okay. So for the Aqua Regia, we've got a little bit more complicated of a setup, but not impossible to keep relatively compact. So from the bath, we're going to get the whatever fancy acid. It changes for every one that you're doing. So we're going to have to do something slightly different for each one individually. And that's very minor. It's just we have to change the filter to make sure that we get the stuff in the right direction. So we're going to need to set up our pipe the same way that we had it. That'll give us the ability to get that acid down in the electrolyzer. This is a byproduct of nitrogen monoxide. So we need to get the nitrogen monoxide out. But we're going to have some other problems here because we have that acid, and if there's also what was missing, there's a third thing coming out of here. Uses Regia. Oh yeah, and we're also going to get hydrochloric acid. So we're going to have to get two things out and let one thing down. So we're going to stick a filter on the side here, and we're going to stick a filter just above the electrolyzer. For the electrolyzer, we're going to actually tell the filter to be, switch this to screwdriver. We're going to tell the filter that we don't want nitrogen monoxide, that we want to filter nitrogen monoxide, but we actually want this on a blacklist filter. So we're going to whack it with the container, whack it with a screwdriver. Now it's a blacklist filter. For the side, we're going to leave that open right now. What we need to do is to set that to not be the acid that we want to capture, and we're actually going to need to fool around with this a little bit to get that out. So we'll actually open this side and open this side, and we're going to stick this monoxide here so we can capture it. And one of these is going to end up with hydrochloric acid, and the other will be the acid that we want. We'll just have to futz with it until we get the one we want out of the system. At this point, I'm going to put the Aqua Regia up in the top because we need to set these filters, and I need to learn to set these up correctly because they're fun.
Now, while he's setting the Aqua Regia in there, I'll show you. You have multiple different things that you get out. So depending on which way you're doing your Aqua Regia depends on which way you got to set your filters. So if you're doing cassiterite, which is what he was talking about earlier, which I think is what he's setting up now.
Correct.
He's going to end up getting cassiterite refined out with tiny refined zincs along with stannic chloride, which when it goes in the electrolyzer with some water will give you a little bit of tin, hydrochloric acid, and oxygen, but it's also going to give you hydrochloric acid and nitrogen dioxide out of the bath. Now, if you're doing this for like sheldonite or nickel or any of the other things that give you platinum group sludge, it's going to give you chloroplatinic acid, which is platinum, and hydrochloric acid and oxygen, along with nitrogen monoxide instead of nitrogen dioxide, and water. So it all depends on which way you're doing it, on which thing you're going to get. Like this one is chloroauric, which is copper or gold, hydrochloric and oxygen with monoxide and water. So be careful. Some will give nitrogen monoxide, some will give nitrogen dioxide. So you just have to be careful.
Oh, this is giving dioxide. Oh, interesting.
Yes, this is. I noticed that. I was wondering how long it's going to take for you to notice it.
Yeah, I just noticed because it's not in the machine still. Okay, so we ended up with getting hydrochloric in this drum. So we'll go send that back into wherever that needs to go. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So now that the hydrochloric's pulled out, we should be able to get the acid, which won't work because it's in the machine below it. So I need to disconnect it from the bottom and put more cassiterite in it.
Or you could just put a cap on the front and pull it from the electrolyte.
That would be smart.
It would be. Then you wouldn't have to run more.
If you're going to do that, make sure you get a stainless tap.
Yes.
We got dioxide in it this time.
The only thing I use in my factory, other than specific ones for like glue and stuff like that I know I'm not going to move, I only make stainless taps because, yeah, it's bad when you try to run an acid through a ceramic one.
That is dioxide. And in case you didn't notice, we're also using a stainless drum for this because it is bad for your health.
Yes.
All right, so that got set with our filter. And I'm checking over here. And that is great, but we actually don't want that to go out that side. We want to switch that to a blacklist filter. That will prevent that from coming out that end. I do need that.
Now, I have a question for you while you're doing that. Why didn't you set the bottom one to a regular filter for the acid rather than blacklisting the nitrogen?
Because we're going to actually open this side, and we're going to let stuff come out this side. So we want the electrolyzer to not get the monoxide or dioxide, which it can electrolyze, so it will end up in there if you're not careful.
Mm.
And it can't electrolyze the hydrochloric acid, so we don't need to worry about that. And we don't want the stannic chloride to leave the system. I want to make sure that it gets in the electrolyzer.
Okay.
Now I need to stuff that back in there. And this drum is not emptying. Oh yeah, because we didn't turn this back down.
And speaking of your boo-boo, you now have nitrogen dioxide in your electrolyzer because the blacklist filter was only for nitrogen monoxide. So now you're going to need a gas nozzle to pull the nitrogen dioxide out.
Yep.
Which you're lucky it's a gas and not a liquid. You're only going to get one or the other.
Sounds about right.
So as I said, be careful you have the right one for your filters, because depending on which one you're doing, it might be monoxide or it might be dioxide.
Yeah, which implies that this is never going to come out, because that's not going to let more stuff in there.
Ain't you got a gas nozzle?
Yeah, but I got to go grab that, and I got to empty this monoxide.
Okay.
Which we had carefully collected.
For the wrong reason.
When we needed the other one. Yeah. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Where's there's the gas nozzle.
And I guess this is a good time to explain. Gas nozzle pulls out gases. The tap pulls out liquids. And if you need to put in, you use a cap nozzle. And if you need to put in for liquids, you use the funnel.
Okay, why won't this go in here though? Oh, because there's hydrochloric acid in the pipe. Okay, cool. You suck.
These things can be so fun to set up the first time.
Or the fourth time.
Yeah, this is where XAR would love to have a blueprint like in Factorio. Copy, paste.
Yeah, basically.
Keeps all its filters and just does what it's told.
Okay. That's at least out of there now.
Congratulations.
Yay! Jackass. Let's put that back. There's a cap nozzle right here in case you wanted to see one.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Because I know not everyone's actually seen one.
Yeah.
Because who uses those? You can usually just set the damn thing on the machine.
Right outside of my room for acids, I have a tap, a gas nozzle, and a gas cap nozzle, all on the wall. So whenever I need them, I got them. Yep. The only thing I don't have is a funnel because, like you said, you usually just put the thing on the machine and you're done.
Oh, speaking of, I needed a funnel.
But I like using the barometer or barometric cylinder for gases.
I don't,
instead
because
of
you can't drop it on top of the machine and fill the machine.
Yeah, but it only does 8 instead of 64, which is why I like using it.
Okay, so that will do that. This will get the hydrochloric out of there, which at the current condition is just in the way. If it will let me take it out. Okay. Yes. All right. Get all that extra shit out of there. Okay. So rubber hammer. Rubber hammer will kill your filter. It makes no noise. It is silent, but not deadly. Now we can set it again. Now it's set to nitrogen dioxide. That should prevent nitrogen dioxide from getting in the electrolyzer. As we discussed, you need to do that, or you have this kind of fun that we just had to get it out of there. Okay, so the electrolyzer is going to return some fun stuff from us. Stannic chloride is going to give us hydrochloric acid and oxygen. Great. We need to get both of those out of there, as well as the other bit of hydrochloric acid that we had, and out of the system. So we'll again use a nanupole acid-proof pipe. Open that up and get that out, and open the upside. So getting it out of here, I've fooled around with it and didn't like other options. So I've decided to use a tank extender. Why a tank extender? It will not allow stuff to come back into the system. It will make sure that these come out of these pipes. And for that reason alone, it is excellent. Then
now, I have a question for you real quick. This bottom nanupole pipe, if you use the tank extender and you extend the output of the electrolyzer, shouldn't you be able to put a single pipe for the hydrochloric and a single pipe for the oxygen and save yourself on 9 stainless?
You also have hydrochloric in the one above us, as well as nitrogen dioxide that's going to come out. So you're going to need a new nupole something.
Okay.
So I've just decided to use stainless the whole line. And then this is in the way. Of course, it's in the way. Didn't remember where that needed to get placed. Come on. Why aren't you letting me over here? Thank you. Okay. And that gets us out of there. As far as that's concerned, this is done and out of there. But we have hydrochloric acid, nitrogen monoxide or dioxide, and oxygen to deal with. Well, if you were paying attention in chemistry, which you were not, those are the ingredients we need to make our Aqua Regia again. So if we come down here, we got mono dioxide, or nitrogen monoxide, and oxygen, and that mixer will convert it to oxygen. There's a filter above us for the monoxide, the oxygen, and that'll collect that. The output goes into the tank, into the system above us for the next machine. That'll give us the dioxide, the water, and we need to input some water. Some of these give us water, which we're missing from that machine. So we'll actually have to go put water in that machine. And we'll get the nitric and a little bit of monoxide back, and that will have to cycle two more loops over there to fully flush out back to nitric. To nitric and acid. Then in the last one, we mix our hydrochloric acid, which has been coming out of all of these processes, directly back with our nitric oxide and make Aqua Regia again. And then that goes into a tank up above us and feeds the Aqua Regia back into these. So we have this tank up here. I'm using a tungsten drum as it's acid proof and relatively large. And you can see that in some of the choices of some of the other drums we had up here. So we talked a little bit about the sulfuric giving us excess oxygen that we don't need. Well, that's actually real handy because in these loops, the baths only have 3 fluid outputs, and they technically should be giving us 4. And what's missing is a little bit of oxygen. So this loop is not 100%. So we need that extra oxygen. So I actually have an extra drum back here to catch a little bit of that extra oxygen and try and grab it for us. So this back one is actually coming from the sulfuric lines.
Okay.
And that gives us a little bit. It still doesn't keep the system closed because you have to be running both lines to keep the oxygen full. And the thing that we missed and we needed the funnel for is that we need to put a little bit of water in here. I'm not sure how the stannic chloride's going to do because this is my first time running it and produce water. So I think we're going to be short on water on this machine. So we might need to add water into this machine.
Yeah, the stannic does not create water. Hydrochloric and nitrogen dioxide.
The others, the baths create water?
Yes.
Yeah, the baths create water.
PGS
and
water.
They create more water than the electrolyzer needs. And the excess water ends up being used by the nitric production.
Okay.
And that stays balanced for the platinum group sludge and the gold one also. So I'll have to fuddle. I'll have to fuddle with this to figure out what closes it. And that might just mean that we take this open hole and stick water in here and prevent it from coming out over here. Which might mean we put a blacklist filter right here of water. Just to prevent it from coming out on that side. And that's it. That should loop this guy. Well, wait, hang on. We need to put water in it, as we literally just discussed.
And you need the tag.
And it needs a tag. That's dioxide. That's water. Have a sip. Oh yeah, the tag, which he literally just said. And there we go. And we got our byproduct, which in this case is tin. Yay! Tin. Just what we need more of.
Yeah, seems how you have a...
Yeah, I have a bedrock vein. 3 chunks that way of cassiterite. So I'm going to let it collect however much will fill up this hopper and let it convert that to tin and zinc, which are going to be our primary byproducts from this. And then we'll let everything else get centrifuged, so I get a little bit of extra wolframite.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask why you were doing this one versus the centrifuge, which will give molybdenite, wolframite, and white fluorite. Do you really need the zinc?
I don't really need the zinc, although I tend to run a little low on it. I intend to run both. Normally, I would set it here and blacklist it from the centrifuge, but I won't blacklist it from the centrifuge. So whatever ends up here will end up here. Whatever ends up in the centrifuge, which has a resistance pipe just before it, so this one should fill first, will end up there. And I'll probably be processing so damn much of it that it's irrelevant. I'm also washing the cassiterite, which gives us molybdenite and wolframite and hubnerite, which are all sweet. And missing off of here is the inventory and tank extender that's supposed to be here. And that hopper is full of garbage, so I'm not going to connect it yet.
Oh yeah, you filled it with all kinds of good stuff.
I mean, it's not garbage, it's platinum group sludge, but yeah, it's not what's supposed to be in there.
Alright, so that's it. If you have any questions on how this is all set up, leave us a comment, let us know, or stop into the Discord and either at me or XAR and GT6 help. If you leave a comment and I can't answer it, I will extend it over to XAR about his setup. And then I will be setting these up on the server shortly, but I wanted to get this video made for you guys to show you his compact way of doing it, because I'm sure when I do it, it won't be quite as compact.
It'll be something completely different and special in its own way.
Yes, it will. Have a good one, guys.